Well, Razorback fans, I think that game on Saturday against Auburn solidified a lot of things, and now Arkansas decides to go in a different direction. What do I mean by that? Well, let's talk about it on today's Locked On Razorbacks podcast.
You are Locked On Razorbacks, your daily podcast on the Arkansas Razorbacks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. I am your host, John Nabors. I am also the host of Inside Arkansas Live, which you can catch every weekday starting at noon on Inside Arkansas and InsideArkansas.com. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Hope everybody's having a wonderful Monday, and hopefully everybody had a wonderful weekend, as we're going to talk about some things going on in the craziness of college football, especially in the coaching landscape and the coaching carousel and all of that, and also get into the more openings that happen in college football for head coaching vacancies, why it's not necessarily the worst thing for Arkansas. I'll tell you what I mean in that here in just a second. But first, I wanted to kind of get into a few things that, well, let me put it this way. One, seasons are changing. That's why my voice sounds this way. So shut up and bear with me. Two, this is usually reserved whenever I've done a Monday podcast is recapping the game. And, I'm going to allude to it a little bit, but it doesn't matter. I mean, it was just pathetic. It was awful. And it's really incredible to see how this Razorback football team, and not only just every week, but over the past few years and everything, I've always made the joke that they'll find whoever team they're playing, and there may be some teams that are way up here. Well, Arkansas will play here. Or there may be a team that's down here. Arkansas will play right here, just a little bit below, just a little bit worse than whatever team they're playing, and that's exactly what happened against Auburn. It was a classic collapse. It almost reminded me entirely of that Memphis game earlier in the year that essentially got Sam Pittman fired. Now, everybody knows that I was holding my reservation out on the whole Bobby Petrino thing if he would have, but he'd have to beat Auburn. I said that last week. I've been saying it this whole time, and he didn't. Now, does that mean that I have, like, that if he won the next 4 games, then suddenly I'd still say no? No, obviously that could change a lot of things. But I think after that performance and after that showing on Saturday, it pretty much ended it. It just gives that feeling. And so with that being said, there's some pros and cons to it. If you were in the Bobby Petrino camp, obviously you're disappointed. I was disappointed just in the way they played. I was hoping that they would at least beat Auburn, a horrible team, and beat Mississippi State to make it interesting. But, maybe there's some hindsight in this. Because the positives of that, regardless if you're a Petrino fan or not a Petrino fan, regardless of that, if it's truly gotten to the point where, like, hey, we were holding on to see what happens against Auburn, to see if we wanted to give Petrino the job, and if that ended it, now it suddenly has made your path clear. There's no longer that variable of Bobby Petrino holding you back, or you haven't put it in the back burner. You can't really talk to people. You got to wait and see. You're in this limbo of waiting on one thing or the other. It needs to be where if you are strictly about Petrino and you want Petrino, then you still need to be able to come out publicly or at least start making some moves. But if you're not, it needs to be done. You need to say, thanks, coach, appreciate you, but we're going a different direction. And from my understanding, that seems to be the case. There was a final-ditch effort on waiting on this particular game to happen with Petrino, and now that it happened and they did not win, especially the way that they lost and everything involved, I think a lot of people who are involved in the search and involved in the coaching change and everything they're just like, all right, we're going to go a different direction. Now, I'm going to tell you all some things, and you know how I do things here on this podcast. I don't tell things for any benefit. I'm not a reporter. I'm not a big J journalist. I'm not here to break news and get all the scoops and the intel. And if I ever say that, it's because I'm being sarcastic. That's not what I do. But I am going to share with you some things that are things that I'm hearing, things that I have been told by people and a lot of people I know that and I trust. And there's also going to be some things that I also, as you all know, I connect dots, put things together, and try to make sense out of it on the things I do know and everything. So this is so just giving you that forewarning in case anybody's like, oh, well, John broke this news that this happened. It's like, okay, yeah, the stuff I'm hearing is one thing, but the stuff that's my opinion and stuff that I'm putting together is quite something else. I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page there. But I've been trying to tell people, or at least let people know, that there is a serious push within the administration of the University of Arkansas to hire a big-time coach. Now, a big time is different from a big name. A big-time coach, to me, is hiring somebody that people want, people respect, people will talk about you as being like, whoa, Arkansas hiring this guy. And one that will excite and energize the fan base. It is my understanding that the involvement of Athletic Director Hunter Yurachek in this is none whatsoever. This is something I've heard from more than 5 people, actually, that I know and trust. His involvement is not there, and his involvement in the athletic department in general might be changing. It's about timing. It's about doing things in a certain way, but that is my understanding. So that being said, a lot of you are probably asking, okay, so what does that mean for the head coaching search? If he's not involved with the coaching search, who's conducting it, who's doing it? Well, I always talk about the back end stuff, the people in the back room, the man behind the curtain, the ones that are the puppet masters, the money. Those are the ones that are going to be more involved in this. It is about finding those coaches and to look at coaches and do all that. Now, here's where it's at, folks. There's a conscientious effort to be raising a significant amount of money to pay a head coach per year. I am talking about Arkansas getting to the point to where they're looking to have between $9 to $12 million a year in order to pay a new head football coach in his salary. I don't know the exact number. I don't know exactly how far away they are, and they may be there. But I know that is the effort that has been being put forth. Arkansas is wanting to and going to make a massive change here and an overhaul. And it's about sending a message. The whole Dark Knight quote, it's not about the money, it's about sending a message. This is a little bit different. It is about the money, and it is about sending the message with the money. Arkansas is going to let everyone know, and there's people that they're going to let know, is like, if we want a head coach, this is how much we're willing to spend on said head coach. Now, some of you may look at that and say, my goodness, well, if they paid $10, $11 million per year for a head coach, what about all the rest of the stuff, though? We got to set ourselves up for NIL and the staff and everything. And you're right. You're right. But the thing is that you're going to have that funding come along with it. It's not just like, okay, well, once we get to this $11 million mark or whatever it is, we're going to say, okay, well, now we have no money left. No. There's going to be some support there. But on top of that, what a lot of this is going to be counted on is this new, energized fan base that's going to be willing to put in a lot of their own money. You, the fans, but also big donors, big boosters, big people that want to believe and want to give to a winning product. They're going to be willing to do it hand over fist if it's a big-time coach, and it's a coach that's going to be able to bring in the high level of success and excitement. At least it be there. Now, these are things that I've been hearing. But there's always a difference between what you hear about the plan and actually executing the plan. There's a big difference there. But I believe, wink, wink, that this is not going to be a problem. This is not going to be a problem as to how and who they're going to be involved with. And it getting to that point, the only reservation that is being held, if there is a reservation, the only one that's being held is, all right, well, people are going to be willing to give the money, but you better guarantee us that it's going to be this coach or it's going to be this guy instead of this whole, we'll just give it and trust us. No. There's got to be some assurances there. But I'm saying all this as somebody who has been extremely critical of all the situations that the U of A has done and the athletic department has done. I am telling you that I have some faith in this. I have some excitement in this. I have some energy in this. And I have some confidence in this. It's got to get executed. And, it's easier said than done. It's like you can be excited about a basketball season, but if you lose in the first round of the tournament, it doesn't matter, Like there's always those things. But from what I understand and hear, it feels good. And the people that are involved are good people involved that need to be involved, that I want to be involved, that you want to be involved. And so I see no way that this doesn't come out as being a net positive for Arkansas in the athletic department, but specifically the Razorback football program. There seems to be, a conscientious effort of getting this done, of sending the message not only to the state of Arkansas, but to every Razorback out there, Razorback fan out there, and also to the fan base, to the college football landscape, that we're serious here. We're serious about this. This is no longer blue light special or whatever it's called. This is serious stuff, and we are willing and we are going to do whatever it takes to get this going. We want to be a player in this too. But it's going to take an overhaul. It's going to take a blowing it up and bringing it back in. Okay. So some of you are like, okay, so if that's the case, who could be these coaches that would be worth this amount of money? Or you're going to have to overpay for some average coach. Is that what they're going to have to do? Well, I tell you what, we'll talk about that on the other side of the break. How's that for a tease? Stay with us here on the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. All right, Razorback fans, we know that college football is in full swing, NFL is in full swing. We can't be more excited. I mean, the tailgates, the rivalries, the energy in the stands, there's nothing like it, especially when a coaching search happens. Hey, but let's be real. Actually, getting tickets can feel more like a battle than the game itself. Endless queues, hidden fees, prices jumping at checkout. Well, that's why I use the Game Time app. The app that gives the advantage back to all of you fans. It's the easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best prices. With no surprise fees, when you see it, that is what you pay. Anytime you pull up Game Time, you just have a couple taps, you see amazing deals. Talking about some of your favorite games for tickets as low as $25. I guarantee you can get to some Razorback games for pretty cheap right now. So if you're looking to try to make a trip up, get you some good seats. Weather looks pretty good against Mississippi State this weekend. Make sure you buy the tickets through the Game Time app. So take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today. Okay, so moving on into the next segment of the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. Okay, so we talked about what I've been hearing from the aspect of finances, because that to me is, and it should be the same for you folks, it's priority number one. You don't want it to be, none of us want money to be the number one thing in anyone's life because we know what happens and all that. But it's like this situation, it has to be. And I've always said that it doesn't matter what coach you get. You could get Nick Saban in here, but Nick Saban can't be successful if you don't have the full financial support needed to make it happen. Well, Hunter Yurachek said Sam Pittman didn't have it, and that was a problem. So now it's being moved to where it's going to be something that has to happen, and the finances are being raised and being put forth. And I think that because of change, because of massive change, I think that there are going to be a lot more people willing to invest and to do it. But when I was throwing out that number of $9 to $12 million per year for head coach, there's speculation about this whole coaching search and how it's kind of like just putting out an ABP of, hey, who wants to come? Let's just throw out every single name. Let's go through it. Have 100 names here, do a pros and cons list and all of that. And to me, that's not really what's going on. Now, it's not to say that they're not going to talk to anybody else. It's not to say that they're not going to listen to coaches that are interested in anything like that. But I can tell you this, folks, this is without question and without a shadow of doubt, and this is a fact. There are some really great names of coaches that have shown interest in Arkansas. Now, could it just be the interest for getting a raise at their other place? Sure. But there have been some legitimate coaches that have shown interest. The coach that I believe, this is me, I believe, the coach that I think Arkansas is targeting as number one priority is James Franklin. James Franklin, as we know, the Penn State fired head coach, he's a hot commodity. Big time. I mean, people thought it was stupid Penn State fired him because of how successful he was. He was in the college football playoff last year. But he's a guy that's got energy. He's a guy that has won wherever he's been, whether it was Vanderbilt or Penn State. If the worst thing you can say about a head coach is that he just doesn't have a great top 25 record or record against top 5 teams, I think you could do a lot worse. And from my understanding, he's very interested. He's very interested. And I believe that if that's the case, then that price range of how Arkansas is going to be putting together those numbers, that's going to be about what you're looking at and what it's going to cost. Now, it's important to also distinguish that if it's that $10, $12 million per year, that doesn't mean that's what they're going to do for just any coach. They're not just going to be like, I'm going to throw this out there for any coach. This up-and-comer who went 6-7 last year at a G5 school, I'll also pay him $10 million a year. Right? It's not that. You got coaches that you're wanting to have at a big picture and a big number, and there's certain ones that are worth more. But if it's a James Franklin, for instance, he's going to have his picks because let's be honest, LSU just fired their coach, Brian Kelly. They fired him. Insanity. So you got Penn State open, you got LSU open, you got Florida open. Auburn more than likely is going to be open. Texas was even doing weird stuff with Sark. Like, who knows if maybe that will be open. Florida State, that one may be open. I mean, you're talking about some major jobs that could inevitably be open. And as a Razorback fan, you're like, man, this sucks because why am I having, we have to compete against all these teams for some big name coaches. Let me put it to you this way, folks. And again, this is not for every coach, but let me put it to you this way. What are we seeing right now? We're seeing such a major shift in college football and college athletics with NIL, transfer portal, all that stuff. I don't want to toot my own horn, but I'm going to. I said from the jump, from when NIL was first introduced, this right here is Arkansas's best chance to even the playing field, to get to a point where they're competing against the big boys. This was the best chance that they had at it. Unfortunately, they blew it because of poor leadership, but this was the chance of a lifetime for them. That's why you're seeing places like Ole Miss, places like Indiana, places like Vanderbilt, places like Missouri, like all these places being successful, having high win levels because they embraced it, they went after it and everything. But it's the big time coach jobs, the big time schools that are the ones firing their coaches. And some people are saying it's absurd. But here's the thing, folks. If you have a high level, high caliber job up here, an LSU, a Texas, whatever, and the high level support is up here too. That's all it always was, right? Before NIL, before transfer portal. Well, if both those are high before transfer portal and NIL, you had the other jobs that were right here with support and right here with pressure and then here with support because they couldn't just get to that point. There's only so many scholarships. They couldn't be doing all that stuff. But now with the NIL and all that, the high pressure jobs and the support are still up here, but these lower pressure jobs, the support is getting up here to the same level. So if you're in an LSU or Texas and you've had the gap get shortened, you're at a school to where everyone's expecting the same results that it's always been. You better win championships. You better be undefeated. You better win the SEC. You better do all this. And we got big donors and big boosters that are talking in the ears of them, putting this pressure of like, you got to do this, do this, do this. And the second that you don't have one great year because they invested so much money, they're out and you're just, it's nonsensical. You're like, I won 9-10 games last year. Doesn't matter. You didn't win a championship. We don't want you anymore. We don't want to support you anymore. It's chaos. And that's what you're seeing at these big major jobs. But on the other hand, places like Vanderbilt, and Ole Miss, Missouri, Indiana, these mid-tier jobs, sometimes below, there's no pressure. If you win 8-9 games, you'll be beloved. You'll be there for years. You have people continue to support. And everyone's just going to be, hey, man, you do you. We're not going to bother you because you're winning. And you also have the high level of support financially to make it work. That's what Arkansas can be. That's what they need to be. And that's what makes them so intriguing. If you're James Franklin, you just came from a situation at Penn State where you took them to the college football playoff semifinals and they fired you. A few games later, they fired you. Because they have this demand, they have this expectation, they have all of that. Do you think that James Franklin, maybe he does, but do you think he wants to do that again? Or would he be a little bit more interested in going to a place where he has the next level support, the next level money, the next level ability to win and to get players and to have that high level and everything, but also not have the pressure and not have a fan base, not have a place that's ungrateful if you make it to a college football playoff semifinal? At a place like Arkansas, you win 8-9 games, we're loving you. If you win 10 or 11 games, we're worshiping you. And if you go to a college football playoff semifinal, we're building a statue out of you and we're naming streets. We're changing the name of buildings for you. I think coaches are starting to get a lot more interested in the lower pressure, higher support jobs than previously. And James Franklin may end up being one of those coaches. Just an example I'm using. Just an example of James Franklin, of course. I know we talked about some fun energy stuff, but there is a little bit negative, and I'm going to explain to you why this is the most disappointing time right now as a Razorback football fan, but why it could also end up being the best time. So stay with us here on Locked On Razorbacks podcast. All right, Razorback fans, we know that all sports are going on right now, and some of you are big basketball people. Of course, the NBA, college basketball is back. But there's no better place to get in on that action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA, as well as in other sports too. Because even if you missed the start of the game or you want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team is making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, so final segment here on the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. Before I get into this, I just want to give a shout out to Reagan Christian, who apparently is a big fan of me in the podcast. At least that's what I was told by a friend of hers. And I promised him I'd give him a shout out because they were really nice and they're really sweet. So shout out to Reagan Christian. Appreciate you listening and your support. That's been done. All right, so now we have a look at the landscape of college football and college athletics and why it's a little bit more frustrating and more disappointing with Arkansas during this struggling time. I mentioned how these teams and these schools are able to be winning at a high level. Like Ole Miss is going to make the playoffs. Like they're going to get into the playoffs. Lane Kiffin's a great coach. Can't even hate on him. I don't like Ole Miss, but I like Lane Kiffin. I respect Lane Kiffin. We'll see if Lane Kiffin stays. But dude's doing work. A&M just took the soul from LSU. They're still undefeated, and they ended up being the reason why Brian Kelly got fired. So they're cooking. Vanderbilt beats Missouri. I know I keep trying to wait until Vanderbilt finally starts screwing around and sucks, but it's like, nope, they keep winning, man. They just find ways to win. And that's where it's really disappointing, is like, if Arkansas just had the administration needed to put forth the efforts that should have been done from the jump on NIL, on the forward thinking, and the ability to hire good coaches, Arkansas could have been one of those teams. If your head coach at football was not being financially supported, then you should have fired him and found one who was. But you didn't. You decided to take the path of least resistance and just ride it out. Meanwhile, your peers, your other schools in the SEC, are popping champagne bottles, winning at a high level, levels that they have never won before, and they have literally nothing that you don't have other than a great coach and actual support and true leadership at the top. And it sucks. Arkansas fans, you have waited for a day where you could finally feel, for a bit, finally feel that in college football, you had something to where you could be one of the better teams. You could be one of the playoff teams. You could be a championship team. And when this NIL and stuff happened, that was your chance. But shout out to all these other schools like Ole Miss and Vandy and everybody who embraced it, who did it the right way. And instead of running from it and trying to fight against it, they did it the right way. They did it the right way by involving their fans, by involving those involved in the money and being transparent and the messaging and the winning culture. They did it. Congratulations. I am jealous of you. I'm not even mad at you for it. Because honestly, it's like LSU firing Brian Kelly, for instance, is a crazy thing. But I also respect the crap out of it because they're like, we don't tolerate this. We have a higher expectation and we're done. Arkansas, you had to pull teeth. You had to go above and beyond to try to make this work and try to even get a change happening. And it's nauseating because of people involved. And I talked to fans about this at the game or after the game. This has been, with the Razorback football program, a slow bleeding out death. It's just slowly bleeding it out. Arkansas has not won an SEC home game, or has only won one SEC home game since 2022. Like, do you guys realize that? You beat Tennessee last year. You haven't won one this year. Probably won't. You didn't win one in 2023. It's been that long. It's been that long since fans have seen any sort of winning inside of that stadium. And people are done with it, man. People are done with it. It's frustrating. It has to change and it has to be blown up. And I'm talking from top to bottom. Marketing, stadium atmosphere, culture, all this stuff. Like, there's just so many things about the games that are just so awful. Everything's so bad. They do everything so wrong. And I'm tired of it. I know you are too. But I'm going to make the little speech of the night is darkest just before the dawn. And folks, you can take it for what it is. You can listen to me. You can not listen to me. That's fine. If you think I'm lying, if you think I'm saying, talking out of my rear end, telling tales out of school, that's fine. But I believe, in my hardest of hearts, I believe that there are much better days ahead for Razorback football. And I believe those better days are going to come sooner rather than later. Appreciate each and every one of you listening in to the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. Be sure to like and subscribe to the podcast on iTunes or on Google Play. You can also get after me on Twitter, John Nabors Show, for any questions, comments, concerns that you may have. Keep it going from there. Same podcast time, same podcast channel tomorrow afternoon. Have a great day, everybody. See you then.